I've been through the rain and I weathered the storm, I'm not looking to stop. My God sent the angels, I'm good when I move like I move with the mob. Tears in the valley, this life is a jungle, I pray to the top. Life is a marathon, I'm running to them, I'm shaking off weights and I'm done with the fear.
This is for the kingdom builders, the entrepreneurs who are called to make an impact bigger than just money alone. The ones who are overcoming trials and turning past failures into future success stories. It's for the bold who refuse to let fear overcome faith. This is Impact Kingdom. All right, welcome back, Kingdom Builders, episode 11, Impact Kingdom. Let's get into it. So, super excited for the message today. I say I'm excited, but I'm not excited to tell the story because the story is pretty embarrassing, to be honest with you. But it is what it is, right? It is, it's life. We grow, we learn, and this is where I started from. So, I told you guys my story back in episode 1. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. But, there was definitely a rocky road to getting into business, getting into, being a kingdom builder versus being a selfish person who was definitely not God-led. And so this is back in that time where I was very selfish, not being God-led at all, and was going through the divorce, right? So my first marriage ended up with a divorce in less than a year, pretty much. And we had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old at the time. And at that point of the divorce, even though it was my fault for the reason we were getting divorced, there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of blame on my part to my ex-wife. And there was just I just showed up poorly. I said harsh things. I put the blame on her. I was very immature. All those things happened. And the result, the consequence of those actions was getting to a point where I almost lost that split custody of my children, right? And that was a huge wake-up call for me. Huge wake-up call. And then I'll never forget after that, I read the book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. You've probably heard of the guy. I think a lot of people know who Jocko is now. But it was super powerful learning this concept for the first time of extreme ownership and what it actually meant. Because we've all heard that same thing before. It's like, don't be a victim, all that stuff there. And I've heard those things before, but for some reason, just this book put it into the right perspective for me to actually digest it and believe it. And it was a radical transformation from that point on, because I realized that this book was not just about being extreme ownership in business, right? It was about having extreme ownership in everything that happens in my life, right? That's extreme ownership in whatever's going on in that divorce. Extreme ownership as being a father. Extreme ownership as running my business, right? But it was realizing that in some way, shape, or form, everything that is currently happening in my life is my responsibility, and at the end of the day, my fault. And you can say whatever you want to say. Like, there's a lot of excuses that can pop up, like, well, if everything's your fault, then no one else can take ownership, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter, because if you have that mindset of extreme ownership, your perspective shifts and you start to have power, right? You start to realize that, holy crap, I have control now. Right? And don't get me wrong, like, at the end of the day, God has all full control, but he gave us power, right? Like, he gave us ownership. We think of, the first thing that happened when he put Adam in the garden. Like, what did he tell him to do? Manage the land, take care of my stuff. He gave him ownership. And we realize that in everything in our life, it is still the same. We have ownership. And especially if you're going to be a kingdom builder, which means that you are building stuff for God's kingdom, you're building businesses, you're leading people, right? You are now extremely responsible for the things that you own, okay? And so that means you're responsible for your actions, how you show up, how you respond when things go poorly, taking ownership over it being your fault and being creative and finding solutions to those things. And this mindset has probably been like, if there was just one thing I could teach someone else and that was it would be the concept of extreme ownership, because when you have that, it's the foundation for success. Because extreme ownership, if you have that foundation in your life, everything else will stem from it, right? You'll get creative and the solutions will come from everywhere. But because you took ownership, now you can actually find a solution and solve the problem, okay? And you may not be able to solve every single problem, but just the mentality of having that ownership creates a peace
and it makes you the leader that you're supposed to be, especially when it comes to your business and the people that you're responsible for. All right. So let's give some, maybe go into some examples here of what that looks like. In business, I'll give an example of what just happened for us recently. We rolled out a new product in our marketing agency, and the service on the product was not good, right? We were not prepared for it. We were not prepared to deliver this product in a way that we could to get the best results for it. And even though my responsibility is the sales and marketing side, right? The side of selling the product, right? And we crushed that part of it where we sold this thing like crazy, but the fulfillment, the back end, right? All of those things failed and now ended up where a ton of refund requests, a ton of it was just bad, right? Like just the service was just not good, right? It was not up to par. And so what do you do, right? What do I do here, right? Do I say I did my job? I sold this thing as we were supposed to sell it. We made this amount of sales. This happened here, and be done with it. I have you guys figure out the fulfillment part. Or as an owner in the business, or as one of the owners in the business, do I practice extreme ownership and realize that this is my problem too? And this is also my fault too, right? Because I should have been more prepared with rolling this out and selling it and setting expectations. I should have been prepared on making the decision of, hey, we need to slow down sales here because we need to fix operations on this side, right? So there's so many things that I could have done that would have avoided this outcome, right? And the problems that we have, that we had to deal with after the fact. And that's what it is, right? And that's taking extreme ownership. And then also, now that you take extreme ownership, you just don't say, oh, my bad, and then stop. But now you own the solutions, right? And you start bringing forth, cool, we can do this. Now here we'll do this. Here's the game plan to fix this. And the next thing you know, right, things are moving back in the right direction. That's extreme ownership, right? And when you show up that way in your business, you show up that way in your family, you should just show up that way in general, that's where you can actually lead people, and that's where you can make an impact. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in as always. Subscribe, comment, let me know who you are if you're watching this. Share it with someone that you feel like you need to, right? If you have someone else as a business owner that's also a Christian, share this video with them. Even if they're not a Christian, share it with them and see what happens. All right, guys, until next one, I will see you later.